Welcome to this pretty quick tutorial here on how to use Microsoft Word. Now, most of you have a basic understanding and can type things out in Microsoft Word with no problem. And what we're basically going to do is take some text, and you can find anything that you're interested in. I don't really expect you to write all of this stuff. I just took a lot of it from Wikipedia. Again, we're not focusing on writing here, right? We're just wanting to make things look good. So I picked a topic that I was interested in, the Mazda Miata, found some text, and I would suggest maybe about, 2 or 3 pages of text, okay? And you can just copy and paste it in. It's not a big deal because like I said, we're just trying to make this look interesting. Now, of course, you should know the content because we've got to sort of style it to make it look good. So we're going to do a bunch of different things. Let me just sort of preview what my report looks at like here. So we'll take a look over here. And so I've put in, let's move up to the top here, put in a title page to start with. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. Okay, and it's really quite easy to do. Okay, so I made a little, it's an old one here, 2016, but anyways, so there it is. Put my picture of a Miata, a little bit of a title, who's it by? And then looking at the next page, it looks a lot better now. We've got some text that's sort of split up, right, with titles. So these here, and I'll talk about them more later, but you can see there's headings, there's images. The images have sort of a caption to them, a few more images. We've got page numbers. We've got a little offset text box here. And these little things, drop caps. An inset quote, and I'll also show you how to do get you to do one little multiple choice question. And so we'll use the forgot the name there, but the numbering and or sort of the bookmarking here, the bulleted list there, but probably with numbering, just to show you how that works there. Okay, so again, you'll need the text. Okay, so that might be your first goal. Now let's just go back and do some of these things just to show you. And I won't make it as perfect, well, as good as this, but just to give you the idea. So if I take this back to my unformatted document, the title page. So if you go right up to the top, a lot of the stuff that you're looking for here is inserting. And you can see there's insert cover page. And if you click on the little arrow there, there are a bunch of options. And yours might look even different than mine because there's more cover pages you can get. Some of them are online and so on. And you can just sort of choose one. So I don't know what one I used originally. It's not a big deal. I can put it in. And then I've got something to start. That's what it looked like I did. And then, of course, I can, change the pages, right? So your document title, don't leave that there. You would just change it. You can get rid of something. So if I don't really need the year there, that's fine. If I don't like the color, if I've clicked on the color, I should be able to go and change it. So under the drawing tools here, format, I should be able to change that fill color. So shape fill, and there you go, right? I might have to change those lines too. I won't go into that at all, but I could just click on, probably grab those lines too, or even, oh, it's probably something underneath there. Let me just see. Yeah, so I think that's sort of putting that on top. No, that's something on top. Anyways, you can mess around and get it to look like what you want. So that was originally deleted there, so I'll just go back. Control Z will undo. So if you've got anything that's sort of weird, that's what, and I put the Miata. Bring images in, pretty easy, although there's one big trick. So if I just grab, let's just say that was a Miata, and images. I guess a couple little tricks. One is we want a good sized image. So if you go under tools, and we're going to be talking about this with Photoshop, large, then you can just make sure that you've got a nice sized image. So let's go for something different this time. Let's do this nice orange, 20th anniversary. And you can see here it's a pretty big picture. Anything around 1,000 pixels is a good size. Copy image. Don't need to save it. And then you can just paste it in. Okay, now if it doesn't go in the right spot, this is the big thing. Images, and I'll probably show you a different way to make sure that it's always like that, but images always come in by default as inline. And so it's just like a piece of text, which is a big pain. So depending on the situation, you might want it to wrap around the text, so square. You might want it right on top of the text, in front of text. So that's what I'm going to click on here. And you can see it's moved back up because I can place it anywhere in my image, okay, or on my text. Let me just make this a bit smaller so I can actually see what I'm doing. So there's the size here. That gives me a better idea, especially when I'm formatting, things like that. And you can see I changed the student name and so on there. Okay, yeah, I can get rid of, whoops, I don't know how to get those little lines. I'll have to look at that, and maybe I'll explain that after. Sometimes there's just a few little weird things. Okay, anyways, we've got that reasonable. So you got a title page now. Let's put in page numbers while we're at it. So again, you can insert, I think, and page numbers. And again, you can click at that, bottom, top, whatever you want. So I think I originally did bottom of page. You could do something a bit fancier or very simple. You can keep going, right? I think I had done something a little bit fancier. And it goes into the footer there, okay? So then it's got a footer on each page. There's a footer. You could potentially have it up here in the header at the very top. And now it's in there, okay? What else? Some titles. So I don't think I had titles here, but I could put them in. So if I go into here and I go introduction, what's the nicest thing to do is to use these up here. Don't just format it and set a format. And you can have different themes if you want, so it doesn't always have to be like this. But if I do that, I didn't highlight all of them, let me do that again. As an introduction 1, that looks a little bit strange. Let me just undo that. I just didn't get that first one. So there we go. So if you do that, it actually creates these as little headers. So if you want to navigate your screen, you can find things quite easily. So heading 1, if they were less important, heading 2, 3, you could do as subheadings if you wanted to. Remember, if you want to change the font, highlight it, come in here, maybe you could always type in the word Times New Roman, and you can get a little bit of a preview there of it. Cambria, Arial, personally I like Arial there. If you change one, and you want to, maybe you change the size to, I'm just going to bump up the size a little bit to 12, or probably 12 is good. And then you want to do it to this paragraph here, let's just say. You could go back and, okay, what did I do? That was Arial, and then that was 12. You could also, and this is what I recommend, is click here, use the format painter. So you click on the format painter, and then you just drag your mouse over it, and it matches the format. Much, much easier. All right, what else do we need to do? Put in another picture. So let's put in another picture here. So that was let's just do a Miata. Let's find an NA Miata, which is the first generation with the pop-up headlights. Again, whatever picture works, I'm not too worried. I'll take this one. Whoops, that's fine there. Copy the image. Now, what I will say is that every time I bring it in, okay, I'm going to have that same problem where it kind of takes up and I can't move it around, okay? And it becomes really painful to try to move it around. Obviously, I can make it smaller, but then I see the text is here. What it's doing is it's just acting like a big letter, and it's a pain. It's probably the worst thing that they put as default. I don't know why they choose that one as default. So this one here, I would choose probably maybe square, because then the text will wrap around it. And then the beauty of it, just like before, I can now place it anywhere I want, open it up, right, and do something with it. Now there are a bunch of things with picture tools you can do if you want. I mean, you can, I don't recommend too many of these, but if you want to put a little bit of a border, you can, or fade it. Generally, the simpler is better, although something like that, right, might just look reasonably good there. So feel free to sort of play around, but try to make it look professional, not sort of really sort of weird looking, right? We want it to look good here. Now you can add captions as well, and let me just see here, insert captions. So if I right click on the picture, okay, it brings up a bunch of things as well that I can do, but insert caption. Now you could put figure 1 if you want. Formal report should have figure 1, so I'll leave that in there. But if you want, you can select it, I think, and delete it. You used to be able to. I think you might have to get rid of this label. Huh, that's interesting. Oh, you know what it is? Once you get it in there, you can change it. So figure 1, the first generation. Yeah. Okay, and then there it is. And again, like I said, now you can get in there and delete that if you wanted to, right? If you don't need to put that in. And again, you could highlight this and, make it a little bit bigger if you wanted, and so on. Okay, so yeah, just sort of working through here. The other thing was that text box, and I think I made this a text box here, this little bit. And so the text box might be a little bit of a side information. That's what I would think about it. So I would insert, and under here again, so insert's pretty important, text box. And you could choose your text box, and then you can move it anywhere you want. So, for the moment, that's fine. I would grab this text. I'm going to show you another little trick here. Instead of copying, pasting, coming back and deleting this, if you cut it, so right click or Control X, same thing, cut, it disappears, but it's in your memory, okay? Well, in the computer's memory. And so what I'm going to do is just click on this and then Control V or right click and paste it in, and now it's in there. Okay. Now this text box is almost like a picture, okay? And I can change its size and I can set it up. So I think it's not going to fit on that first page, I don't think. Just give me a second here. Let me just make this smaller so I can just move it over easier. So yeah, always feel free to play around with the size. Why isn't it moving? Maybe just too big here. There we go. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller, so it's just like a picture, and maybe a little bit wider. Okay, so something like that, and then I would just sort of place it in my text. There's a little bit of extra room here. I can delete some of this space. Oops. I might be not too happy there. We can get rid of that. I'll show you how to do that. Now that text box, just zoom in a little bit more on that. There it is. You can format it. So you'd probably maybe want a little bit of a color on it. Again, once you've clicked on it, usually there's a separate little tab that lets you click on that. You can format. So you could do a little bit of a fill. So I think before I just had a gray on it. I mean, you could do something that matches up maybe with that blue. Where was that blue that I had there? That's the fill color, sorry. There, I think that's the same one. And then you can also get rid of, if you want, right, that outline, and something like that. And you could even, change up the text. Obviously it didn't all fit in here, so I gotta pull this down a little bit. Where it went. Oh, I don't know why it's being so mean to me here. Just had to manhandle this for some reason. I don't know why it was being so upset with me, but there we go. So now that's made it bigger, and I could put a little title on that, or maybe not make it a title, but maybe increase the size and bold it. Again, the font, I should keep the font consistent. So like I said, I've done all those, but I could take the format painter and just go through and hopefully get everything and so on. Okay, so you can add pictures. I think I've got some ideas here, or things that you have to do. Let me just pull this over. I think I've covered most of them. So using that title page, titles and headings, okay. Mention just that theme. You can change the theme up. I use the default one there, but if you go under here, design, there's different themes, so you might want to change it up. There's different colors. You can play with that. Like if I change, and you can see there, just by selecting that theme, it changes the whole format of my my work, right? So you might want it with that line across and so on. So Microsoft tries to make it as easy as possible. It's a little bit like HTML now, in terms of, if you can identify these as headings and so on, it knows sort of how to format it. It can make the formatting consistent across your paper. So maybe that looks a little bit better, right? So yeah, so play around with those themes to see what you like best. Text boxes, so we talked about that. 3 images, so I showed you putting I put 2 in. I'd like at least 3 images in the text, I'll say. So +1, appropriately placed, changing the text, right? So in sort of fixing it in there. Add captions to the images, and we saw how that. I don't think we have to put text boxes on there, but I showed you how to add a caption. Page numbers, drop caps. I didn't show you about drop caps. So drop caps are pretty straightforward. What you would just do is grab the first letter. Okay, so highlight that first letter, and I think it's in insert. There it is, drop cap. And again, if you click on here, there's some different styles. That's probably the best. The margin does that. I don't like that as much. That looks pretty good. And you could always change the size of it if you wanted to. Okay, so it just sort of adds a bit of visual interest in there. The last thing I was going to do was a question. Okay, and this is just to make us use the bullets or numbering system. So here, and I'll get you to do 2 questions. So I could start with a numbering system. So question 1, and I should put a title on this, but when was the Miata first introduced? Okay, so a little question mark. So all I did there, sort of zoom in a little bit, was click on this and it numbered it, okay? Now if I press enter, it will go to 2. But one thing I can do is I can zoom in, or sorry, tab in, so I would just press tab, and what happens there is it goes to an A. So I could put numbers in here, 1980, 1989, 1994, and let's just put one more, 1999. Okay, so there. And what I did, I did so quickly there, is I pressed enter. Well, I don't want to do E, but I don't have to delete this. All I do is press enter. And again, Microsoft sort of knows, you're probably done with this, and it goes back to the second one. Okay, what year is Mr. Fleming's Miata? Good question. So again, I press enter. It says 3, but I just tab in, and then I could put that. So 1990, 1992, 2000, and 2001, and let's say 2020. Mr. Fleming bought a new car. And again, so now it's gone to the next page there, but it says E. I would just press enter once, it's gone to 3, and I'd press enter again, and now it's gone back to regular text there. So it's pretty straightforward how to do that. So put in 2 little multiple choice questions that have to deal with that. If I wanted an extra space here, I could just press enter, enter, then backspace, and it gets rid of that. So again, if I want a little bit of spacing, which I think looks better, all I did was press enter, enter, and then to get rid of that 2, it did the backspace, and you'll notice how it automatically renumbers those. So it's really easy. You can just sort of renumber them. Good. Okay, so I think that's more than enough to get you started. If you've got any questions, always feel free to ask me, okay, online or in class. Topic, any topic you're interested in. I'm not picky, okay, but something that you'd be interested in so that you can do some stuff. Just to show you here, if I do this with the 2, heading 1, now it's automatically sets that up to 2. And so to view like what's on the side here, just sort of to give you an idea. I mean, there's different views here. What you can do, let me just say, the navigation pane, there it is. And if you click on that, then it sort of shows you the headings. So then you can quickly jump to those sections. Again, not too important with a short project like this, but you can imagine if you were writing a much longer report, 15, 20 pages, writing a book, this would make your, navigating, instead of scrolling down here, you can just click on where you need to go, and there you are. All right, so I will give you, this is an example. So in the assignment, you can take a look at this. to sort of give you an idea what I would expect, and then also yeah, the outline there of what you should do. Okay, good luck with that.